I think that I would have been a better mom to recognize that his strengths weren't weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And if there were weaknesses, there was a better, more positive way to handle those than my overwhelm.
Hey everyone, this is Yvette Hampton. Welcome back to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. I am back with Cindy West, and we are so excited that you are with us. If you missed Monday's episode, go back and listen. Cindy she is so much fun. She just shared about what some of the joys were as she looks back on her homeschooling journey. She's not done yet, but you're 7-8 months away,
yes,
I guess, from the end.
Woo-hoo.
But it's exciting because then that means God just has something new. It's just a new season. It's a different season. So it will be fun to see what the Lord does with you. But we are super excited for right now to have you as part of the Schoolhouse Rocked team. And you will be coming on to guest host. I don't even want to say guest host. You're a host of the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast starting in 2025. So if you guys missed that big announcement, you can listen to Monday's episode with Cindy or go back and listen to our Thanksgiving Day episode. And that will explain everything that we're doing, all the changes that we've got coming for the ministry. So we're glad to have Cindy back with us today. But before we get into our conversation, I want to say thank you again to our sponsor, BJU Press Homeschool. For those looking for great homeschool curriculum, maybe, now it's December and you're looking into the new year and you're thinking, this curriculum that I'm using for language arts maybe isn't working, or for history isn't working, or maybe you're done with it and you need something new to jump into and you're not sure what you need. BJU Press has something for you. So check them out at bjupresshomeschool.com, and they teach everything from a strong biblical worldview. And we love them. We are so grateful for their sponsorship of this podcast, because without our sponsors, we would not be able to do this. And so thank you to BJU Press for just continuing to support the ministry. Check them out, bjupresshomeschool.com. All right, Cindy, welcome back. I want to talk about just a little bit on Monday. We talked about just the joys of homeschooling and all the things that you can look back on. As you look back again, I want to take you into kind of a different box, if you will. What are some of the things that maybe were the hardest for you? Maybe some things you would do differently. I don't want to say regrets, but maybe some things that looking back, you would do differently now. Or if you're talking to a new homeschool mom, you would say, if I had to do it over again, this is probably the decision I would make. What are some of those things that you can share?
That's a great question. And I always have said that I do not ever want to live with regrets. So I love the way you framed that. I think most of the time we look back 5 years, even yesterday, and we say, well, I may have done such and such differently. But we say that because we have more wisdom on this end. We have more experience on this end.
Yes.
So had I had certain experience and wisdom, there is definitely one child who had a lot more energy than I ever imagined having. And the Lord created him with zest and leadership and, like I said, plenty of energy. And as a younger mom, I didn't necessarily see those things as the positive words that I just used.
Yeah.
I saw those as frustrating and maybe aggressive,
maybe overwhelming.
Overwhelming. And the greatest part is, though, we were at a church where there was some brain training happening. And I think you and I may have talked about brain training before. Do you remember us having that conversation?
I don't remember.
I feel like maybe when we were talking about game schooling, we briefly talked about brain training.
Yes.
Well, anyway, I was invited to come to a Saturday seminar on brain training, and it was life-changing. It was life-changing because what it taught me was how to use games and exercises and activities to help train executive functioning skills. Those are things like comprehension, attention, auditory processing, things that really matter when you have a kiddo who has those stronger tendencies in life to say, okay, well, I'm going to embrace those stronger tendencies, but we do have to do those within the confines of something. And so it really helped them understand confines and use that brain a little more efficiently. So I wish I would have known about that earlier, because I think that I would have been a better mom to recognize that his strengths weren't weaknesses. And if there were weaknesses, there was a better, more positive way to handle those than my overwhelm. Which, as a young mom with 3 kids, there is a lot of overwhelm in general. So now I will tell you that I've had a conversation with that kiddo many times, and I've said, I didn't always do it right with you, but I'm really, really thankful for the tendencies that I used to see as frustrating. I'm so thankful you have those now, because they are going to be the things that make you go in this world exactly where the Lord wants you to go. So that is a good, positive thing. When you have we're not going to call it a regret, remember?
Right. Yeah.
But when you have some of those, because of grace and because of the opportunity to go and ask forgiveness and because of the relationships we've built, we can go and humbly say, you know what, I might have messed up here. And I'm thankful that we turned the ship around and went a different way. But I want you to recognize that I wasn't necessarily right here.
Yeah. Can I want to interject there, because as you're talking about that, one of the things I'm thinking as a mom, because like you, I mean, my goal is to have as few regrets as possible, with my girls. And even though I haven't always done it right, I've always done my best. I've always tried to do my best. And I think that most homeschool moms are there. And I feel like with, if a mom is listening to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast, it's because she wants to do it right. She wants to do her best. Yeah. And just thinking through how the Lord is just orchestrating for all of you to come on and be part of the team to host the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. I know each of you, I know your hearts for your children and your families and for the homeschooling community, the Christian homeschooling community specifically. And I'm so excited about how God uses even this ministry and your ministry and the ministry that we all have collectively to help parents, mostly moms, to have as few regrets as possible, because we've gone before them a little bit, some more than others, but they can learn from our mistakes, from the things that maybe we didn't do right. And we can share those things with them and say, you know what, if I had it to do over, just like you shared, if I had it to do over, I would have probably done it differently. And so it's so exciting to see how the Lord brings Titus 2 women into our lives, whether through a podcast or at church or whatever, family members, our moms, grandmas, whoever brings people into our lives, and we can be that Titus 2 woman to them. And we have Titus 2 women who have gone before us to learn from. And so anyway, I just think through the, not always doing it right, but really always trying to do my very, very best. And in my sinful nature, it doesn't always look pretty, but
no, it doesn't always look pretty. And I would just say, if we're talking about what I might have done differently, I think maybe I would have opened my ears a little more to the Titus 2 women speaking into me. So have you ever had your mom or your mother-in-law tell you something, particularly when you were a younger mom, and you're kind of like, yeah, but you're not living with this kid.
Right.
And right. I think I wish I would have listened a little bit harder and understood that, but they still are giving me some wisdom that's important, and I need to hear it, and I need to figure out a way to manage what they're telling me into this everyday life that I'm having to live with this issue or this child or whatever the thing is. So maybe that's something really important to say. We're not saying this as something that is unattainable. We're not looking at it from a different angle and going, well, you know what, you should do this. And then, a younger mom going, but you're not there anymore. You don't remember what it was like.
Right.
I get that because I felt it. But try to find a way to hear it and integrate it. The best you can.
Oh, I agree completely. They have more wisdom to share than I think we give them credit for. But I think it's kind of like, you and I both have adult children, and they get into adulthood and they think they know all the things. And in the background, we're like, but do you really? Like, do you? And so just let me share with you. And I think that our parents, my mom's 77 now, and she still shares with me because she has been at that point where she had an adult child who was me, who was my sister. And she went through the same thing. And so she has shared stuff with me as well, where, she never tries to say, well, you're doing it wrong. You should do it this way. But she'll sometimes just say, when you were that age, we went through something similar. And she does it in a way that's very grace-filled and never judgmental, never, you're doing it wrong. But she'll just share some of her wisdom at 77 years old. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that she's willing to do that in a way that's just like, okay, but I know she's sitting back half the time going, I've been there. I've done that. I hope you listen to the things I have to say. Mom, I love you so much. And I'm so grateful for you. Anyway, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Have you tried CTC Math yet with your child? Here's a testimonial from another happy homeschool mom. Amber said, I'm absolutely thrilled with CTC Math. It's a rare find that I've used with my children for more than 5 years now. I have 6 children using CTC Math, and each child has found it easy to navigate and very applicable. Thank you so much for all that you are doing in providing quality math lessons for my children. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com. That's ctcmath.com. Join Apologia for the Homeschool Bootcamp, a free video series that provides practical guidance and wisdom from experienced homeschool parents. You'll discover how to equip your family for academic, social, and spiritual success. Plus, you'll discover how to build deeper and stronger family relationships. Homeschool Bootcamp covers how to break free from the public school mindset, daily planning, supporting students with learning challenges, homeschooling as a working parent, navigating the high school years, and much more. Find this incredible free homeschool resource at apologia.com/bootcamp. We are back with Cindy. If you were just looking back, you're talking to a room full of moms and you're just like, okay, let me just tell you from my experience, here are some things that I would have done differently. Is there anything? I'm sure there are lots of things if you really sat and thought about or made a list, but off the top of your head that you would just go, this is something I would have done differently.
Yeah. For sure. I can think with that same exuberant child, he needed to move, and it would drive me nuts when he wanted to move and we were supposed to be doing schoolwork. And I think that I would have earlier on, because I did learn this later, but earlier on, I would have allowed more movement while learning. I would have allowed more movement in between learning. I prided myself on I let him go out and I let him do this and I do that. And then we come back together. But maybe I didn't even do quite as much of that as he needed. Right. Because looking back, I can definitely tell that those times I did allow the movement, he soaked in so much more. It didn't necessarily look like it from my end.
Right.
But that's the way he learned. So I think maybe just paying more attention to learning styles and allowing those kids to specifically that one to have more freedom to learn in his learning style and not have to fit into what I saw. And you know what? That could be a problem with me having come out of the public school early on.
Yeah.
I expected that school needed to look a certain way. So maybe other people don't necessarily deal with that like I did early on.
So kind of along that same vein, as you're looking at teaching your kids, we homeschool for many different reasons. We talked about the part of the beauty of homeschooling is we get to teach our kids to do life. We get to teach them to just live as humans, to cook and to clean and to mow the yard and to take care of a farm and to take care of maybe a family business. We know homeschool families who own restaurants, and so their kids work alongside them. I mean, there are so many different things that we can do with our kids to teach them the value of hard work, to teach them just how to be productive, hardworking human beings that can contribute to the world and to their families. And sometimes I think homeschool parents can go so far on that side that they almost forget about the academics. So talk about that, because academics are important. And I want to say this carefully. Academics are very important.
Yes.
They're not the most important thing, but I feel like a lot of homeschoolers have fallen on the side of, well, they don't matter at all because they're going to learn what they're going to learn when they learn it. And yes, that's true. But at the same time, they still have to be academically prepared for life. And so how did you find that balance? I guess that's the question of not pushing them so hard that it's all about academics. You have to get into, a top university. You have to have, the highest scores on all the tests. You have to do all this because we want you to be smart, and well-educated, sometimes as a badge of honor for me, the homeschool mom.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they need to know things. So how did you balance that with your kids?
That's a great question. And you actually hit on one of the things I'm actually most passionate to talk about that I don't think you knew.
Maybe not.
Yeah. And it is a spot to tread lightly, because I think that when you say one thing, people who are very academically driven are going to use that as fodder to keep going that way. And then people who aren't as academically driven are going to use that as fodder. So what I like to say is every single child deserves a college-bound education. And that is your job as a parent to provide them if you are homeschooling them. Our job as parents in general is to lead them to the Lord, to develop their character, to develop discipline, to develop life skills. If we had our kids in another education situation, those would still be our jobs. But we have decided to bring them home for the academics portion, and we have to take that seriously.
Yeah.
So, I do think that there are some who just push so hard on academics that they might create really smart kids, but do those kids, does smart equal wisdom? Does smart equal the ability to go out into the real world and do real world things?
Right.
Not always.
Right.
On the other hand, my kid's not going to go to college. I just know it. And they are 14 years old. Have you directly spoken with the Lord about that? Do you know what the Lord's plan is for your child?
Yeah.
Unless you have had direct communication with God about your child and you know exactly what the future is, then you have no business predicting their future. And they deserve to have an education that is at least college worthy.
Yeah.
So that's the point I like to make about that. We must do that. Yeah. That means what that translated in our homeschool was we academically push hard every single day in the mornings. And a lot of times we're finished by the time lunchtime rolls around. Yeah. Sometimes we're not, and we must finish that. But if we finish that, then we have the afternoons to work on some of the other stuff, whether it's the passion-driven stuff we've already talked about, or some of the life skills things, which can include in the home, out of the home, budgeting. I mean, a million different things. Yeah. Entrepreneurship. So let me give you a really practical example. My third son, the one who's a senior this year, he started a lawn care business this summer.
Oh, yeah.
And so that went into the school year. And it was really easy for him to say, I'm a senior. I've covered a lot of the stuff. How about we just use this lawn care as entrepreneurship and be done with it? And I said, okay, well, I love that idea. We will use your lawn care business as an entrepreneur credit, maybe two, depending on a few factors, like, putting together a business plan and a budget and so on and so forth. So if we got it more into personal finance. However, you're still a senior in this homeschool, so you're still doing other classes. Yeah. It can be very, we can talk about how to make that happen. I don't expect that, if you have a big day of mowing, I don't expect that you're going to do a huge day of school too. So maybe when the mowing season wraps up, that's when you really push super hard on the personal finance course, for instance, or whatever. Yeah. So there is the give and take as they get older, but it's still that boundary of academics is as important as the rest of it. And the rest of it is as important as academics. And you know what? You just communicate that with your kids and you plan your daily schedule around everybody understanding that kind of flow in your family, that we do both and we do both well.
Okay. Here is where we're at though. And I'm going to leave this with a little bit of a cliffhanger because we'll come back tomorrow. We're out of time. Okay. But I am certain, 100% certain that there are moms listening to what you just said. And they're saying, but Cindy, you have a master's degree and you have been trained as an educator. I barely got a high school diploma, if that. I'm not organized. I'm not smart. I, have lots of kids, maybe I've got 4 kids under the age of 5 or more children than that. How in the world do you expect me to be able to educate my children to be college ready by the time they graduate? So we're going to leave it there, and we're going to come back tomorrow and we'll have Cindy answer that question. Cindy, Tell us one more time where people can find out more about you.
OurJourneyWestward.com or Our Journey Westward across all social media, but mostly Instagram.
All right. We will link those in the show notes. You guys, thank you so much for listening. If you have not liked and subscribed to this website, would you please do that? If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel and share this with your friends. You guys are our marketing team. I've told you that before. We need your help to get the word out about the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast, and tell your friends about the exciting changes that are coming up in the new year. We are so anxious for this new year to kick off and just to see what the Lord is going to do with this. Also, if you've not seen the movie, you can find that at our website, schoolhouserocked.com. The movie is Schoolhouse Rocked, the Homeschool Revolution. You can stream it for free, schoolhouserocked.com. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you guys back here tomorrow. Bye.
You're listening to the Biblical Family Network.
Hey, I'm Miki.
And I'm Will.
And we're the co-hosts of the Culture Proof podcast. We want to invite you to join us every week as we discuss what's happening in the world and then filter those happenings through a decidedly biblical lens.
There are many questions, especially when we see what's happening in our culture today, but the answers are found within the Word of God. So that's where we want to look.
Amen. When we resist those cultural trends that rival the truth,
we remain culture proof.
We all have growth journeys to be on. I mean, I still to this day have things that I need to work on and grow in. And that's been true from the moment I was born, but especially in this homeschool journey. And so when you say, I'm not organized, I'm overwhelmed, I'm uneducated, all of those things are opportunities for growth. You need to recognize that whatever is coming out as an excuse, that's the hard part to hear because it is an excuse.
Oh, that hurts.
I know. But when that's coming out as an excuse, you have to look at that and say, okay, but I have accepted this job. Therefore, I'm choosing to grow